The following is a special presentation of Extreme eSpeed TV, your new home for everything iRacing and eSpeed.
It is Cool Ray Hometown Heroes Night here in the Coast-to-Coast Racing Leagues. I am Travis Piercefield, and this is the Coast-to-Coast Racing Network, and we welcome you to Cool Ray Hometown Heroes. Kicking us off tonight is our Wing Sprints 305s, and joining me tonight is Nick Vickery. Nick, we're back here for Hometown Heroes this week after the World Finals last week. How do you sum up your week racing in World Finals last week, looking back on it?
There was some really good racing. Of course, I think everybody in the field had highs and lows throughout the week. And, that's kind of the sweet spot about getting that long event in is you have highs and lows, so it goes good and bad. But looking forward to get back into weekly racing here for Hometown Heroes and see what we can get done.
So Hometown Heroes 305s are out on the track. It looks like we've got about 13 cars here as we about move on to ABR Setup Shop qualifying session. Looking ahead to tonight here with the 305s, Nick, anyone jump out to you that you'll think will be someone to reckon with and will battle for a win here tonight?
Yeah, we've got a smaller car count here tonight than what I think we have in the past with Hometown Heroes at this track. But, you've got your fast guys that are fast every night they come and race. You got, Brennan Lacey, Dustin Sargent, Blake Chapman, and you've also got some new faces down there, Bud, and I don't want to butcher his last name, but, I haven't seen him around in previous races, so you never know. It could be a new face tonight.
Well, as always, it should be some great racing tonight. As mentioned, we'll get started with ABR Setup Shop qualifying session here to set the fields for our heat races. We'll conclude the division with a 30-lap feature event. Also on the docket for tonight, as usual on Wednesday nights, we'll have the 360s, and then we will end up with the 358 modifieds. Looking ahead at the rest of here tonight at Lucas Oil Speedway. Beautiful night here. It's a Wednesday night. As always, we're glad to have you joining us here. And as we look ahead to Lucas Oil Speedway, it's a newer track to the program, Nick, but obviously some of these guys have lots of laps on it. As guys get used to it, and now it's just an old track here on iRacing, how has that changed your setup going into a night here at Lucas Oil?
Yeah, we've the hometown heroes this year has been here all every week, so far this season, and I think these guys, a lot of the guys here tonight, have a lot of laps, like you said, and even though we run this track every week, they change the weather settings, so really it's a surprise every time you load into the session because you don't know how the track's going to wear in. This track seems to wear in quite differently every week, so I guess we're in for a surprise and some good racing tonight.
And with that, ABR Setup Shop qualifying session is underway. This will kick off our night here. As you'll see the times over there on the left, got John Morano out there. Gary Singlecow's out on the track as well in his familiar 25 sprint car. Roger Craig out there in his 747 machine. Morano's going to be the first one with a time, 14:37, as Taylor just edges him out. Blake Chapman's out there, Patrick Spangler. Plenty of names that we see each and every Wednesday, Nick, that are always running up front and always someone that could pull away with a win here. Roger Craig will shoot to the top of the charts at 14:03 as Nicholas Vickery, our in-car reporter tonight, second fastest, a good time there, sub 14 seconds, as now the rest of the times come on in. Blake Chapman now sitting atop of the charts. So Chapman, really good time. Over 1/10 faster than Lacey, who's currently second fastest. Jeffrey Barker out there as well, a familiar face here at Hometown Heroes. Bud Molinik's out there as well. Looking at that now, I'm thinking it's Molyneux. Brandon Dittmer out there as well. So Nicholas, looking like you're going to end up with a top 5 lap there. What was it like getting out there for qualifying session tonight? What's your outlook after being out on the track here with some speed on the line?
Yeah, these cars, they're really, really momentum based. So, if you make one mistake or you let the car over rotate just a little bit, it'll shave tenths and possibly even more than that off of your time. So, really, really good lap there by Blake Chapman running in the sub 0.9 lap times. But no surprise, Blake's always fast anywhere we go. So definitely hats off to him for being really a tenth above everybody else here.
So it looks like our ABR Setup Shop qualifying session about to come to an end. And with that, we will move on to our first set of heat races here with the 305 sprints. And Nick, since you aren't in there, if you want to go through our starting grid.
So I am in this one, but I can do it for you. On the pole, we've got Roger Craig. On the outside of the front row, you've got myself, Nicholas Vickery. And then in row 2, you've got Jeff Flero and Blake Chapman. The third row, you've got Gary Taylor and Jeffrey Barker. And rounding out the field, you have Gary Siegelkow starting in 7th.
So there's your starting lineup for heat race number 1. With that being said, we'll let Nick jump on in his sprint car and get to racing, as we will get underway here with our Langton Mechanical heat race number 1. Our first heat race of the night here at Coolray Hometown Heroes from Lucas Oil Speedway, as we have been all fall long. Roger Craig's going to be on that front row next to Nick Vickery, our in-car reporter tonight. Of course, got our Stephen King Foundation pace truck out front. So 6 laps here to get us started. Langton Mechanical, second to none heating and air conditioning company in the Hamilton area, and promise our customers our own professionally trained Langton specialists will be there personally every step of the way. So heat race number 1 about to get underway. That second row, Blake Chapman, Jeff Flero, along with Nicholas Vickery up on that front row. Plenty of fast cars in this heat to get us started here for Coolray Hometown Heroes. Green flag will wave on heat race number 1. We are green at Lucas Oil. Vickery uses that outside momentum to pull down the front or back stretch. He'll pull in front of Craig. Craig now has Chapman and Flero behind him side by side. Barker will get sideways. Taylor and Single Cow all go around in turns 3 and 4. That'll separate the front 4 from the rest. 3 wide coming out of 2 as Nicholas Vickery continues to lead. That's Chapman on the inside, Flero in the middle, and Roger Craig to the outside. It's going to be Craig with the momentum down the front stretch as we've got 4 laps to go. Craig's now pulled away. Flero's also moved in front of Chapman. Out front, it's still Nicholas Vickery. 3 laps to go now here at Lucas Oil in our heat race number 1 for the 305s. Chapman now trying to work the outside of Flero. That's a battle for the 3rd position. Roger Craig is just in front of him now as they'll go nose to tail by the start-finish line. 2 laps to go as Nicholas Vickery has stretched his lead over a second over this 3-car battle for 2nd place. White flag this time by. It's going to be Nicholas Vickery as Roger Craig gets into that outside wall coming out of 4. That opens the door for Chapman to move into 2nd as Flero and Craig continue to battle for 3rd. But coming out of turn number 4 in heat race number 1, it's going to be the 0-0 of Nicholas Vickery. Chapman 2nd, Craig 3rd, Flero 4th. So Nick Vickery will win heat race number 1 here, kicking off our night of racing. We'll move on to our Magnum Race Design heat race number 2. And Nick, before we talk to you about your heat race win there, let's go through that starting lineup for heat race number 2.
All right, on the pole for the 2nd heat of tonight, we've got Brandon Dittmer, followed by Patrick Spangler. In the 2nd row, we have Randy Shreves and Brendan Lacey. In the 3rd row, starting on the inside, we have Bud Molyneux. On the outside of him is John Morano. And then rounding out the field in this one, we've got Dustin Sargent in 7th.
So that is your starting lineup for Magnum Race Design heat race number 2. So, Nick, you were able to pick up that victory in heat race number 1. Were you able to take away anything from that heat race?
Yeah, early in the early heat races, the bottom's always going to be fast. And, I was able to kind of get away a little bit there in the beginning. And I felt like Blake Chapman was going to reel me in, but, they've shortened the heat races to get more races in for the night, and I think that kind of did me a little bit of favors there.
So 6 laps down, 1 heat race in, 1 victory, 1 heat race victory for Nick tonight. So they're side by side. It's going to be Dittmer Spangler on that front row, Shreves and Lacey row number 2. A couple newer guys that I haven't seen much, Nick, with Molyneux and John Morano. So it'll be interesting to see what they can do here with the Wednesday night series. So Steve King Foundation pace truck pulls on off. They'll come through 3 and 4. Headed to the green flag. Dittmer Spangler will lead us to green. Green flag waves. And we're back to racing here in Magnum Race Design heat race number 2. It's Dittmer out front, Spangler in 2nd as they continue to battle for 3rd.
Yeah, Randy Shreves lost a good bit of spots there in turn 1 and 2, and he's falling in line here going into 1.
So Dittmer and the 414 of Lacey using that outside line. Spangler now trying to use that inside line to make a move for the lead, Nick.
Yeah, it's really interesting. In the first heat race, we saw the bottom really be the place to be, and now these guys are really moving up the track pretty quick.
Can you talk about what that high groove does and how also there's that lip up there that you can't go all the way up to the wall? There's a shorter way around that the track really makes you use.
Yeah, in 1 and 2, there's quite a bit more of a lip. In 3 and 4, it's actually pretty easy to slide off the top of it. Brendan Lacey on the last lap went a little bit high, and you see him kind of try to run down the racetrack here coming off 4.
So they continue. It's Dittmer, Lacey, Spangler, Shreves. That top 4 nose to tail around this Lucas Oil Speedway. As Lacey will look to the inside of Dittmer through 3 and 4. The crossover won't work as Dittmer will have him at the line with white flag waving.
I think Brendan Lacey was hoping to get the top side going into 1 there and have a little bit of momentum coming off, but now he's got Spangler to his inside.
So it's a 3-car battle out front. They'll come out of turn 4 for the final time. It's going to be Dittmer with the win here in Magnum Race Design Heat Race number 2. It's Dittmer, Lacey, Spangler, and Shreves, your top 4. So the heat races will wrap up here at Lucas Oil for the 305s. We'll move on to our Flatline Racing Bodies intermission here, warm-up session. When you go into a warm-up session like this, Nick, what are you looking to accomplish or gain?
So really, I'm looking at the track condition, trying to figure out really where I want to go on the first lap, try to figure out where the fast line is so I'll know where I need to try to work towards. Starting on the bottom on the pole, the top line might be fast, so I got to try to figure out how I'm going to get to the top as quickly as I can to minimize the amount of spots that I lose.
So plenty of cars out there here early in this Flatline Racing Bodies intermission session. See Brandon Dittmer, our heat race number 2 winner out there. Chapman, fastest here in this intermission session. Dittmer second, Gary Taylor as it cycles back through. Now Gary Singlecow will shoot to the top of the charts. Randy Shreve second, and our in-race reporter Nicholas Vickery now third. Nick, with these cars being so momentum-based, how important is it to win a heat race to set you up for a good starting spot in the feature?
Yeah, I think it goes all the way back to qualifying because here in Coast to Coast, they invert the top 4 of each heat race. So, even if you don't get a really good qualifying time, that might set you up for a good starting spot in the heat race. In my heat race, I definitely was not the fastest car on the track, but because of the invert, I was able to benefit from that.
So Vickery continues to make laps out there. We've got 11 guys out on the track. 14 cars here for the 305 division here tonight at Coolray Hometown Heroes. We'll move on to our 30-lap feature next, our first feature of the evening. And of course, everyone looking to make it into Coolray Victory Lane here tonight. Speaking of Coolray, Coolray's goal is to make sure that Ray's tradition of 100% customer satisfaction lives on today. Coolray is proud of their reputation of providing excellent service to homeowners and businesses in Georgia, Alabama, and now Nashville, Tennessee. Their mission is to continue building long-lasting relationships with their customers through winning spirit and commitment to 100% satisfaction guaranteed. That is our Hometown Heroes presenting sponsor, Coolray, and also our Victory Lane sponsor here in the Coast to Coast Racing League. Randy Shreves out there as well as we come to a close here with our Flatline Racing Bodies intermission. And that moves us on to our feature event. So we will go through that starting lineup. Our starting lineup, as always, presented by Super Dirt Car Series. Starting on the pole, our in-race reporter, Nicholas Vickery, next to Brandon Dittmer. Row number 2, Blake Chapman, next to Brendan Lacey. Roger Craig, Patrick Spangler in row number 3. Jeff Flaro, Randy Shreves, and rounding out our top 10, Gary Singlecow and John Morano. Starting 11th is Gary Taylor next to Bud Molyneux. And then rounding out the field in the last row is Jeffrey Barker next to Dustin Sargent. So Nicholas, you're going to start the race here from the point position on the inside. How do you think this will play out now with 30 laps of green flag action here at Lucas Oil?
Yeah, the track's still got quite a bit of grip in it because of the car count. And, I'm really hoping that the bottom is a viable option here for the majority of the feature. And, I think we've seen in previous weeks that a lot of the guys that are fast can still run the bottom even when the track wears out. So, I don't know. I guess my idea is to try to get out as far as I can and just try to maintain that lead and not let anybody get any closer. But that's really what you do every time you get on the racetrack, right?
Well, you're in a good position here at least to start. We'll see what happens. You have some fast cars behind you. Looking behind row number 1, we got Blake Chapman, Brendan Lacey, Patrick Spangler, Randy Shreves back there, middle of the pack. See who can move up and down through this field as the Stephen King Foundation pace car dives on off over there, turn number 2. It's Vickery and Dittmer, row number 1 down the backstretch. They will lead us to green here. 30 laps around Lucas Oil Speedway here for our 305 feature of the night. Vickery and Dittmer head down the front stretch. Green flag waves. Good start for Dittmer there on the outside. He'll pull ahead going into turn number 1 as Vickery and Chapman lead that inside line. It's going to be Vickery able to slide on up down the backstretch as Dittmer will cross him over. Look to the inside through 3 and 4. Vickery will lead lap number 1 here at Lucas Oil. He's got Dittmer and Chapman to his inside as Vickery entered the corner, middle of the corner. Dittmer will slide up. That'll open the door for Chapman to his outside down the front stretch as that 00 Vickery continues the lead. Vickery has Dittmer all over him, through turns 3 and 4. Chapman looking to that outside. He'll ride momentum as much as he can as he's got the 414 of Lacey to his inside now. The front 4 break away from the rest of the group. You got Flaro back in 5th, Spangler back in 6th as the caution comes out for the first time. Few cars with some issues there. As we'll watch Randy Shreves. Oh, and it looks like Roger Craig gets up over that lip in the corner. He'll go around here on the front stretch. Able to spin out there with anyone getting into him. So bright side or... So, Nick, you were able to get some laps under the belt there. How do you feel with that start there, and what do you think it's going to take to hold off those guys behind you?
Yeah, I was really running all over the track trying to find where I feel comfortable, and I'm thinking that the top in 1 and 2 and somewhere around the middle in 3 and 4 is probably going to be the fastest way around. So, just try and hit my marks and get as far away as I can. Hopefully on this restart I get a good jump.
For the first time. Bring up our Malcolm Millwrighting replay. As we'll let that cycle through, try to see what brings out. Nick Vickery continues to lead Brandon Dittmer. Blake Chapman still settled into that third position. Lacey back in fourth. 23 laps here to go as Dittmer trying to make a move on Vickery for that lead. He'll get into that wall out of turn number 4. That should open the door for Chapman. As Chapman runs the middle line through 1 and 2, he'll drift up to the wall coming out of turn number 2 as he continues to try to move closer and closer to the back of that 83 machine. As the front 3 are still nose to tail back and forth, Lacey watches on. As out front with 21 laps to go, it's Nick Vickery. Dittmer driving it with all he can, trying to make up any ground he can as he's got Chapman to his outside now. Chapman's going to be able to move up alongside him down the backstretch as Lacey's trying to follow that 20 through. Chapman will move past Dittmer this time by as they get 19 laps to go here in our feature event for the 305 sprints. Lacey now trying to run that high line just as Chapman did around the outside of Dittmer. Dittmer will pinch him off there in 3 and 4, shut down the drive there as now Blake Chapman tries to move in on that 0-0 of Nicholas Vickery. Vickery continues to lead. His lead is about 7/10 over Chapman. Chapman's moving around on the track behind him, trying to find something. The last lap, Vickery was just slightly faster than Chapman and Dittmer behind him. As Vickery's up there as high as he can go on the current racing surface, both in 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, as Chapman's now moved up in that high line as well. But the lead has grown to over 0.8 of a second. Back in the pack now, Lacey's caught Dittmer, as has Spangler, who's right behind that 414. This is a battle for third. 14 laps to go this time by as Lacey continues to find some ground on that 83. He'll slide up in front of him coming off of turn 2 as Dittmer will fight back on that inside down the backstretch. Dittmer slides up in front of Lacey. They're side by side. Oh, around goes Lacey and Dittmer into the wall. Green flag stays out as they keep moving forward. Dittmer will fall back to 6th. Lacey falls back to 7th. As now this second group of cars is led by Patrick Spangler with Jeff Flero right behind him. They run 3rd and 4th. Out front it is still Nicholas Vickery as he comes to 11 laps to go. And now Blake Chapman has chopped that lead to about 0.4. So 0.4 of a second lead for Nicholas Vickery over Blake Chapman. Chapman continues to look for whatever he can. He cuts it down to 0.3 that last lap. Going to be single digits, 9 laps to go this time by. And that lead is now under 0.2 as Chapman has made a move on the leader. He's running that lower line through 1 and 2, able to make up some ground on Vickery. And doing the same through 3 and 4. Vickery using that momentum to keep that lead. 8 laps to go now, and the caution waves for the 3rd time. Looks like Jeffrey Barker in this one. We'll look back and see what happened. Looks like he gets just slowed down in 1 and 2. Nowhere for Taylor to go in front of him as they make contact. So Nick, Blake was able to move up into that 2nd position and really run you down there. What are you thinking now with 7 laps to go and Blake right behind you?
Yeah, I was getting a little nervous. I'm listening to you talk about how he's closing in and the distances and stuff, and the closer he got, the more nervous I got.
It looks like he's trying to run a lower line through the corners. Is that something you think you'll be able to keep and hold off as you run that outside line?
I don't know. I think the top is still an option in 1 and 2, but the bottom or the top in 3 and 4 seems to really have gone away. There's not really any grip anywhere up there. I've tried running about a lane off the top, and then I've also tried running all the way to the top, and I don't get the drive off like he is coming off the corner.
Well, good luck. We've got 7 laps to go when we go back to green here at Lucas Oil Speedway. And it's going to be Nicholas Vickery trying to hold off Blake Chapman and Patrick Spangler here in our 305 feature event. Vickery's led it all from the pole thus far. And he has a hungry Blake Chapman behind him trying to chase him down. We'll see what this latest green flag and mission 22 restart can bring out. So we're going to go back to green here at Lucas Oil Speedway. 7 laps to go. Vickery will lead him to green. Good restart for Vickery there. He's able to stretch his lead over 0.3 of a second as Chapman and Spangler continue to try to make that inside line work and chase down that 00 machine. Vickery slides his line down there in 3 and 4. Chapman will jump back up in front of him. 6 laps to go. Chapman jumps behind that 00, looks to the inside as they head down the backstretch and into turn number 3. Spangler also looking down to the inside as Chapman's now up alongside Vickery as they cross over. 5 laps to go. 00 trying to use that outside momentum. He'll be able to keep his spot to the outside of Chapman down the backstretch. Coming out of turn number 4, though, it's going to be Chapman and Spangler getting by Vickery with 4 laps to go. Vickery now resets and falls in line with Chapman and Spangler out in front. 3 laps to go, this time by for Blake Chapman now. He's got Patrick Spangler behind him. Nicholas Vickery now watches on from the 3rd position. Our Chip Banger Racing hard chargers right now, Blake Chapman and Patrick Spangler, both up 4 positions as they've moved into 2 podium spots as they run 1 and 2 here with 2 laps to go at Lucas Oil. Chapman will come on by for the white flag. He's got a good half-second lead over Patrick Spangler. He'll go down the backstretch for the last time here in the 305s tonight. Through 3 and 4. Coming out of turn number 4, your 305 feature winner is going to be Blake Chapman. Patrick Spangler second, Nicholas Vickery third. So our 305 sprints come to a close. A restart with 7 laps to go is just what Blake Chapman needed as he will move past Nicholas Vickery, bring Patrick Spangler with him, and that is how they will finish as they get lined up on the front stretch here at Lucas Oil Speedway. And as always, we will interview our top 3 drivers, including our 3rd place finisher and in-race reporter, Nick Vickery. Nick, we talked to you before that last restart there, talked about what you might have to do to hold on to that lead, and Chapman and Spangler really used that inside line to get past you there through 3 and 4.
Yeah, I think one of my weaknesses got exposed there. I'm not a big fan of running the bottom, and I'm not very good at it. So when the top went away, I was really just a sit and duck until they were able to get hit the right marks on the bottom and get around me.
How hopeless of a feeling is that when you know you've got to run in spots that you're not the best at, and possibly some other guys have some lines that they can use that their cars will work for them that you know you can't defend off?
Yeah, it really puts you in a tough spot because you don't want to drive in the mirror, and you don't want to mess up their race by making a mistake in front of them and them having nowhere to go. So you can try to defend to the best you can, and then once they get to your inside or get to your outside, you really just kind of have to concede the spot and try to maintain where you're at and not lose any more.
Well, great run, Nicholas. Good start to your night here with a podium finish. Any sponsors you want to give a shout out to?
Yeah, definitely got to shout out Spartan Racing. After that would be VMR Wraps. If anybody there needs a wrap, come check us out on Facebook at VMR E-Wraps. Got to thank Andy over at Cool Ray. He does a lot for a lot of people, so definitely got to shout him out any chance I can. Got to thank Roger and Preston for putting all this together, and then, of course, you for putting on a great show.
Well, thank you, Nicholas. Good run. And now it looks like you have our 2nd place finisher, Patrick Spangler.
Patrick brought home 2nd tonight. How was your race here in the feature?
Man, we got lucky. It's hard to pass here in the 305 just for the lack of power, and it's kind of one lane. You can gain some spots if it starts to move to the bottom and you jump it at the right time. Just missing Dimmer and Lacey getting together, and me and Chapman just right on the bottom. And Vickery got stuck up top, so not bad. Come out with a 2nd.
So did you ever consider running the top, or were you once you saw the bottom line kind of come in, you knew that's really where the race was going to end?
Usually most of the 305s and 360 races this year, it's been bottom at the end of the race. Sometimes the 305 the top will stay in, but I just would stick to the bottom.
Well, definitely a good run tonight, bringing home second. I believe you passed 4 cars to get there, so definitely a good run for you. You got anybody you want to thank?
Yep, just for you and Travis for putting on the broadcast here, Roger for running the league, Train Racing, and Dad and Uncle back home watching.
That is your second place finisher tonight, Patrick Spangler.
And now joining us from Coolray Victory Lane, our winner here in the 305s tonight, it's Blake Chapman. Blake, we talked to Nick before that last restart, what he had to do to hold you off. What was the difference there late in the race that allowed you to get past him?
Yeah, I was kind of surprised to see him change his line, but I probably would have done the same thing if I was him. I don't know if he knew where I was running or not, but I saw he kind of tried to protect there and run a slider line. But like I said, probably something I would have done too. But initially, I didn't really want the caution because I felt like it was me and Nick, and then like 3 seconds back, it was Patrick. So we were kind of isolated out there, but it might have worked to my favor because all the momentum that Nick had built up running the top, that was a race with the caution there. So I just stick to my line there on the bottom, and I was able to get it done.
You kind of had 3 parts to your feature. The first part, you got stuck behind Dittmer there. You, Spangler, Dittmer were really battling for that 2nd through 4th position. What was kind of early happening there? Is it looked kind of like you were stuck kind of back in the pack?
Yeah, just trying to find out where the fast line was, and I thought that was up high all the way around, so just being patient and waiting for the track to change a little bit, and it eventually did, and I was able to make a couple moves, get around some guys, and then once I got ahead of them, the car didn't feel great in 3 and 4, so made an adjustment there and changed my line, and once I changed my line there, I started gaining on Nick a little bit, and changed it in 1 and 2 as well, and that's when I really started gaining on him, so... the track changed quite a bit more than I thought it was going to. We only had like 15 cars tonight. But overall, I think it was a pretty good show. Hopefully we look good on the broadcast.
Well, it was a good start to your night as you pick up the feature win here in the 305s. Any sponsors you want to thank?
Oh, yeah. First, I got to thank my parents and grandparents, Steve Bixler, everybody watching and supporting. I got to give a shout out, of course, to Galen's Gourmet Popcorn. Head over to their website, use code CART. CART at checkout for 15% off some of their delicious popcorn. Got to thank all the guys down at Krite Sim Racing and the Can-Am Racing team. Really like running with those guys, and Preston at Epsilon Sprint Reps for making all my cars look pretty. And of course, I got to thank you for putting this broadcast on.
Well, great start tonight. Congratulations, Blake, and we will look to talk to you later in the night.
Thanks, Travis.
So that is your winner here in the 305 sprints. It's Blake Chapman picking up the victory. Coolray Hometown Heroes continues next. We will move on to our 360 sprints here from Lucas Oil Speedway. Tonight we've got Nicholas Vickery in the booth with us tonight, our in-race reporter. So we will be back after this commercial break as Coast2Coast Racing League Coolray Hometown Heroes continues shortly.
This October, some of iRacing's best dirt racers come together for one of the biggest A-days ever. All dirt roads lead to Charlotte and the Dirt Track Bank World Finals, presented by the Dirt Alliance. Fixed 360s, Pro Late models, and small block modifieds collide for 7 action-packed nights in a pursuit of a guaranteed purse of $1,500. 3 champions and an overall world champion will be crowned. Register now for this great event. Go to c2crl.com for more information. The World Finals run from October 21st to the 27th. 100% of registration goes to Mission 22 in their fight to end veteran suicide. A joint effort between the Coast2Coast Racing League, Friday Night Lights, and Dirt Track Bank, a division of Malvern Bank. Don't miss it.
in our industry. The lifetime parts and labor warranty is pretty awesome. Basically, all the parts are covered, the labor and everything.
When we say lifetime, we mean lifetime, and it's supported with money-back guarantees. And with that, you're getting all qualified technicians that are going to ensure that this job is done perfectly and operates perfectly throughout the life of the unit.
Learn more about our Coolray Lifetime Parts and Labor Warranty at Coolray.com. Coolray and Carrier. Turn to the experts.
This November, dirt racing's most celebrated stars align in an electrifying spectacle. The World of Outlaws World Finals. All dirt roads lead to Charlotte as the World of Outlaws NOS Energy Drink Sprint Cars, World of Outlaws Case Late Models, and Super Dirt Car Series Big Blocks collide. 4 action-packed nights, 3 season champions. Get your tickets now. November 2nd through the 5th at the Dirt Track at Charlotte.
Welcome back to Lucas Oil Speedway. It is Cool Ray Hometown Heroes here on the Coast to Coast Racing Network. And I am Travis Piercefield for the 360 Sprints. We are joined tonight by in-race reporter Nick Vickery. Nick, as we get moved on to the 360s here, what will be some of the differences we see from the first division we had out on the track earlier tonight?
Yeah, I think the track's going to blow off quite a bit faster. I think you'll see a slicker track, and I think you'll see guys searching around trying to find grip, because with these cars, it's really, really easy to overpower the corner, and I think you'll see guys running the bottom, middle, and the top.
So 18 360 sprints here tonight about to take on the track. Of course, we'll get started with the ABR Setup Shop qualifying session, which Nick will be a part of here in the 360s tonight. Kevin Fry fastest here in this practice session. Bob DeGood, Jeff Flero, Nicholas Vickery fourth, and Blake Chapman, our winner from the 305s, in fifth. Is there any advantage to racing in the 305s and then moving on to these 360s immediately after, Nicholas?
I don't know, outside of the relief of having a little bit more power under your right foot, I don't know that I would say that.
Watching Bob DeGood currently out there on the track. Times here are sub 13 seconds, so a little bit more speed here with the 360s, especially here at this Lucas Oil track. As you look at the lines, do you feel like it's going to play out similar to the 305s, Nicholas, or does the power in these 360s give you some more options?
Here in practice, I ran my fastest lap, run the bottom in 1 and 2 and the top in 3 and 4. And it's not really something we saw in the 305s. It was either all the way around the bottom or it was all the way around the top. There really wasn't any in between. So I think with the more power, it gives you a little more options. As long as there's some grip or you can find some grip on the top, you can make a good exit. It's just a matter of where everybody else is running.
So watching some of the lines out there, that's the 747 of Roger Craig. He's currently 10th fastest. That 200 machine of Jeff Flero, he is the 3rd fastest here early in this evening, this Wednesday night. As always, Cool Ray Hometown Heroes. Tomorrow we'll have Flatline Racing Bodies Thursday Night Thunder. Tomorrow is also Jeff Barker Hall of Fame night, so make sure you tune in to the Coast to Coast Racing Network for that. The UMPs, the 358s, and the late models will be at Weed Sport. And then, of course, Friday, Gears Unlimited Friday Night Lights at I-55 will round out the week. As we've made it to Wednesday, the week is half over here as November and the calendar has flipped over. Hard to believe we're at this point of the season and this point of the year. Nicholas, you are a consistent iRacing driver. When we get to this part of year, the real life machines are put away for the winter, but be able to get your racing fix here on iRacing. What does that do for you as we go through the winter months here?
Yeah, it really makes the winter go by a little bit quicker. You mentioned the real racing starting to slow down. I've actually got the World Finals, one of the prelim nights up on another monitor here, kind of watching that in between the races. And, it's a long couple months between the real racing and the iRacing really does help you kind of close that gap a little bit.
So they are at the dirt track at Charlotte this week. Kicks off tonight for those World Finals. And we've got some great racing ourselves right here on the Coast to Coast Racing Network all week long and all off-season long. Scary Single Cow is the final driver out there on the track. And we wait to move on to ABR Setup Shop qualifying session. So another great Cool Ray Hometown Heroes night. Of course, we will get started with ABR Setup Shop qualifying session. With more than 7 years of iRacing experience and 3-time iRacing World of Outlaws Sprint Car Series World Champion Alex Bergeron is your coach and your setup builder for iRacing. The goal is to make you the fastest on the track without any exceptions. Don't look any further. ABR Setup Shop offers weekly official race setups, custom setup requests for your specific races, and most importantly, one-on-one coaching sessions. ABR Setup Shop, which is also the presenting sponsor of our qualifying session, which is about to get underway, as Kevin Fry is one of the first cars that pull out on the track there. Kevin Fry in that 21 machine. Jeffrey Kemper out there in that 181. Brandon Dittmer in the 83. We just saw him in the 305. Had some troubles. Pushed him back in the pack after he was in the front group leading. A front group of leaders there in that first feature of the night. Our in-race reporter Nicholas Vickery will shoot to the top of the charts with his first lap of 13:01. He will improve to a 12:95, still fastest. Dittmer second fastest, a 13:05. As it's going to be Bob DeGood in the 7 machine, a 12:92, which is fastest until Blake Chapman, our first feature winner in the 305s, goes out. A 12:87. We'll see if he improves on his second lap. He will, a 12:76 to stretch his lead out over Bob DeGood. As Nicholas Vickery's third, Shreve's fourth, fifth, Dittmer. So, Nick, you have the third fastest lap there, but it looks like the guy that got you in the first feature, Blake Chapman, puts down a great lap here in his qualifying session.
I know looking at 305s, he was, a single tenth. Now he's 2/10 faster than everybody on the tracks. Again, hats off to Blake Chapman for one of the fastest qualifying times I've seen at this track so far this season.
So a great run by Blake Chapman. Bob DeGood, a good run for him, second fastest. As we have 3 guys get sub-13 second laps there. 18 cars here for the 360 division tonight. And we will wait as we move on to Langton Mechanical Heat Race number 1. As ABR Setup Shop qualifying will come to an end. As mentioned, Blake Chapman, Bob DeGood, Nicholas Vickery, Randy Shreves, and Brandon Dittmer, your 5 fastest in our qualifying session. Of course, as always, big thanks to all our sponsors here at the Coast to Coast Racing League. From the Tim Chapman Racing pre-race show, our standings presented by AJ Custom Designs, ABR Setup Shop qualifying session. All the sponsors involved here with this league each and every night. Appreciative of them. And speaking of sponsors, we're going to move on to our first Langton Mechanical Heat Race number 1. Nick, you got that starting lineup for us?
I do, and actually a little bit of funniness from the server. They called Blake Chapman to the tech shed. They said he was doping his tires, so he may be a little late gridding here. But starting on the pole here in the first heat race, we've got Andrew Embach. To his outside is Patrick Spangler. Starting on row number 2, we have Randy Shreves and Blake Chapman. And then on the third and final row, we have Steven Bixler and John Rayner rounding out your field for the first heat race here in the 360s.
So that will be your starting lineup. They'll line up behind that Stephen King Foundation pace truck. And our first heat of the night will get underway here for the 360 division. Of course, heat race number 1, as always, presented by Langton Mechanical. So we'll watch quick time Blake Chapman start from that outside second row. Spangler right in front of him. Those have to be 2 of some of the favorites in this heat race, Nick, to come away with the victory.
Yeah, I think so. And, we can't rule out Patrick Spangler either. He's been really, really successful in the sprint cars here in Coast to Coast. And, you even got John Rayner in the back as well as Steven Bixler. Those aren't guys to really sleep on either. So I think this should be a really good one to watch here to kick off the night.
It's always fun when 1 through 6 in the heat are capable of getting up there and winning the heat race. As Embach Spangler will bring us to green here in heat race number 1 for the 360s. Through turns 3 and 4. White flag waves. Heat race number 1 is underway. Good start by Spangler. They're on that outside line. He's got Chapman behind him. It is Shreves and Embach on that inside line, but going into 3 and 4, it's going to be Spangler with the lead.
Yeah, you notice Blake Chapman there went ahead and cleared to second, and he's starting to reel in Patrick Spangler going into 1.
So they'll be nose to tail coming down the backstretch. 5 laps to go. 6-lap quick heats here in Wednesday night Hometown Heroes. The front two have broken away as Chapman looks for a way to get around Spangler for the lead.
Yeah, he made up a good bit of ground there getting into the corner, but lost a little bit coming off. So I don't know if going into 1, if he'll try that again as we come to lap 4.
3 laps to go. Spangler and Chapman have separated from the rest of the group. They're about a second in front of Embach, who runs third. He's got a good gap in front of Shreves. That's your top 4 with 2 laps to go.
Yeah, I think Blake may be trying something here for the feature, see if he can get that line that he was running in 305s to work in the 360s. I think the track's a little fresh right now, but I think we could see that line come back here in the feature.
So white flag waves. It's Patrick Spangler out front. He's got Blake Chapman behind him. He's now got 0.6 of a second lead over Chapman. He'll come through 3 and 4 for the final time. Heat race number 1 is going to go to the 39 of Patrick Spangler. Blake Chapman second, Andrew Embach third, and Randy Shreves in fourth. And with that, we will move on to our Magnum Race Design Heat Race number 2. Nick, you've got our starting lineup.
All right, here at Heat Race number 2, we've got Jeffrey Kemper on the pole with Jeff Flero to his outside. On the second row, we have Brandon Dittmer and Bob DeGood. And then rounding out the field in the third row, we have Bud Molyneux and Kevin Fry.
So 6 more cars make their way out onto the track here for Magnum Race Design Heat Race number 2. All behind that Stephen King Foundation pace truck. As we quickly move through Coolray Hometown Heroes tonight, we'll have 3 heat races here for the 360s. Our Flatline Racing Bodies intermission, and then we will conclude this division with a 30-lap feature event up here shortly. Brandon Dittmer in that 83 was someone that was fast, but then also Bob DeGood had a great qualifying session run preparing for this heat race, Nick.
Yeah, he jumped above me there about middle way through that qualifying session, and he turned a really, really good lap. I might need to go check what kind of dope he's putting on those tires because I need some of that stuff.
So they will get lined up. The Stephen King Foundation pace truck dives on off over turn number 2 there. It's going to be Kemper and Flero, row number 1, leading us to green for heat race number 2. Through 3 and 4, they come down the front stretch. The green flag will wave. 6 laps here at Lucas Oil Speedway for heat race number 2, and they're still side by side coming out of number 2 as Flero will grab the lead down the backstretch.
Yeah, Flero got a really, really good start coming out of 4. Oh, it looks like Dittmer got into the back of the 181 there in turn 3 and 4.
It also set Fry off course, so those two will fall back behind the pack as Flero now leads Kemper. Flero fast as he's got a 0.4 of a second lead. The 4 cars still out there spread out down the front stretch with plenty of space between each of them.
Yeah, I think Bud Molyneux there was the real winner in all of that contact. He moved up into the 4th and final transfer spot.
So Kevin Fry is still out there. He's 3 seconds behind Bud Molyneux. But out front, it's Flero. He's got over a second lead over Kemper with 2 laps to go as they continue to chase down this win in heat race number 2.
Yeah, it looks like Bud and Bob DeGood are spread out a little bit, as well as Jeffrey Kemper and Jeff Flero. And, I think Flero really here is just trying to tick off the laps as we come to the white flag.
So final lap, it's Jeff Flero out front. He's got a healthy lead over Kemper in second. He'll come through turns 3 and 4 for the final time, and it's going to be Jeff Flero, your Magnum Race Design Heat Race number 2 winner. Jeffrey Kemper second, Bob DeGood third, Bud Molyneux will be 4th. And that will lead us to our third and final heat race presented by Salty Dogs Racing Team. Starting on the front row, it's going to be Gary Taylor next to Jeffrey Barker. Row number 2, Roger Craig and our in-race reporter, Nicholas Vickery. And rounding out the field, Gary Singlecow, Brennan Lacey in 6th. So, Nick, you're out here in heat race number 3. You'll start outside row number 2. What's it going to take to get out in front of Barker and Taylor out front?
I think the name of the game here in the heat race is to just really keep your nose clean. You know, we've seen a couple contacts in both the heat races so far. So I think keeping my nose clean and just trying to be patient, I think, are going to be the keys here in the heat.
So as mentioned, Nicholas will start outside row number 2. He's got Jeffrey Barker and Gary Taylor in front of him as we go to green here with heat race number 3. Our third and final heat race for the 360 division. Following this one, we'll have our Flatline Racing Bodies intermission, and then we'll round out the night with our modified 358s here at Cool Ray Hometown Heroes on the Coast2Coast Racing Network. Steve King Foundation pace truck pulls on off. We've got 6 laps here in heat race number 3. Gary Taylor and Jeffrey Barker leading us to green. Green flag waves. Good start for Barker and Vickery. Vickery's able to push Barker to the front as Gary Taylor will now slide into that 3rd position. But out front, it's Jeffrey Barker with Nicholas Vickery behind him through 3 and 4 for the first time. Barker continues to lead. Vickery will look to the inside through 1 and 2. As Barker closes the door down the backstretch, Vickery slides up into the tracks of Barker, as now Vickery's got Taylor closing in on him behind him for the 3rd and 2nd position. Barker continues to lead. You can see Taylor really closes that gap entering turn number 3. Then Vickery's able to separate as they exit turn number 4. They're nose to tail for 1st and 2nd down the backstretch into turns 3 and 4. Vickery looks to the inside, unable to make a pass this time by as it's 2 laps to go. Through 3 and 4 to the white flag they come. Barker is going to lead Vickery up beside him down the front stretch. Nose to tail through 1 and 2. Barker will close the door on Vickery there as he'll make one final attempt through 3 and 4. As he closes in on the bumper, it's not going to be enough as Barker will win heat race number 3 presented by Salty Dogs Racing Team. And with that, our 3 races in the heats conclude. We'll move on to Flatline Racing Bodies intermission. Here for our 360 sprints. Nicholas, it looked like you were closing in on Barker. You just couldn't make that move to get up alongside of him.
Yeah, you know, he was running really, really good lines there and really played defensive and ran a really, really good race not to allow me to get to his outside or really get to his inside. You know, the bottom wasn't quite there yet. I tried it a couple times, lost some ground. So definitely hats off to Barker there for running a good race.
So Nicholas Vickery will end up 2nd. Barker will be one of our heat race winners. As you can see, plenty of cars out on the track during this Flatline Racing Bodies intermission. Blake Chapman's one of the guys to watch. He's got the fastest time here in this intermission session. Brandon Dittmer, 2nd fastest. Andrew Embach, 3rd. As we will take a look at those fast times here in this Flatline Racing Bodies intermission session. A minute and a half to go here before we get lined up for tonight's 360 Sprints feature event. Randy Shreves out there. You see the 75 of Steven Bixler. It looks like some of the guys not making laps. Jeffrey Barker, Patrick Spangler, our in-race reporter, Nicholas Vickery, still trying to find something to put on his tires here to pick up some speed. Gary Singlecow out there as well. As our intermission session comes to a close, it's going to be Chapman and Shreves, along with Dittmer, atop the charts, really separated from the rest of the group of the 13 cars that made laps during this Flatline Racing Bodies intermission session. And with that, our in-race reporter, Nick Vickery, and the rest of the crew will get lined up. And we've got that starting lineup presented by Super Dirt Car Series. Starting on row number 1, it's going to be Patrick Spangler next to Jeff Flaro. Starting third, our in-race reporter, Nicholas Vickery, next to Blake Chapman. Fifth, Jeffrey Kemper next to Gary Taylor, Andrew Embach, and Bob DeGood. And rounding out the top 10, Roger Craig and Randy Shreves. Starting 11th, Bud Molyneux next to Gary Singlecow. John Rayner next to Kevin Fry. Starting 15th, Jeffrey Barker next to Steven Bixler. And rounding out the field, it's Brandon Dittmer and Brennan Lacey. So, Nick, you're going to start up front, row number 2 next to Blake Chapman. You've got Spangler and Flaro in front of you. What's going to be strategy here early to try to get in front of some of these cars?
I'm a little bit confused. I finished second in that third heat, so I assumed I would have been sixth on the starting grid. But I don't know if maybe somebody got a black flag or something. I don't know what's going on. But, I'll take the extra spots. It's a little bit less work I got to do here in the feature to try to get up front.
So Nick Vickery will start third. Looks like Barker is back in 15th, who had beat you in heat race number 3. So maybe there was something special on those tires that Barker had. So 30 laps here in our 360 Sprints feature event. It's going to be Patrick Spangler next to Jeff Flaro. Our first start of the night here with Stephen King Foundation Pace Truck off the track. Spangler, Flaro down the front stretch. Green flag waves. First lap of our 360 feature is out. Spangler down against those tires in turn number 1. He'll separate from Flaro. Flaro has Vickery to his inside. Chapman right behind him as they're 3 wide behind them for 5th. Great racing throughout. You got Blake Chapman looking to the inside of Jeff Flaro for 2nd. Vickery is now settled into that 4th position. And our first caution comes out. It looks like Bud Molyneux will have some issues here. They get collected up in the wall. Takes out a few of the cars in the field. And 3 laps in, our first caution will wave, and we will have our first Mission 22 restart. So Spangler leads Flaro, Vickery, and Chapman as we're completed 2 laps. The Stephen King Foundation Pace Truck pulls on off. Spangler will lead us back to green. He's got Flaro in second, Vickery in third, Chapman fourth, Kemper fifth. Green flag waves. Spangler will jump out to the start here as they're 3 wide behind him for second. It's going to be Flaro as Vickery continues to hold off Chapman behind him. As Vickery looks to the outside of Flaro through 3 and 4. He'll use that momentum and our caution will wave again. This time looking back in the pack, got Roger Craig, Kevin Fry, Brandon Dittmer. As it's Fry, Dittmer make contact, around goes Fry, and that will bring out our second caution. Nick, can you kind of walk us through what some quick cautions in a race like this can do to your momentum and just your mindset going through here with still 27 laps to go?
Yeah, we've talked about it a little bit in the 305 race, but here on the top, there's a lip, and when you have caution after caution, you don't really get a chance to kind of fall into a rhythm, and that can be really dangerous when you go back green and you start to run some laps and you start moving back to the top. You don't have a rhythm as far as where you're supposed to turn in, where you're supposed to get off the gas, so it's really, really easy to go off the track and make a mistake when you have a caution and then a caution and then a caution.
Well, we've had our second caution of the night. We'll have our second Mission 22 restart of the night. And with that, we will look to go back to green here with the 360s. Patrick Spangler continues to lead. He's got Jeff Flaro, Nicholas Vickery behind him. Spangler hits the gas out of turn number 4. Green flag waves. He's able to separate from Flaro, who has Chapman and Vickery to his inside through 1 and 2 again. Second straight restart that Flaro's been under attack as Chapman's to the inside, Vickery's to the outside. Vickery trying to go all the way up top to try to make a move, and the caution will wave again. Looks like Bud Molyneux will have more issues here. Oh, and it looks like Gary Taylor slowed down in turn number 4. Nowhere for Bud to go. And that will be our third caution of the night. So, Nick, is it going to take a longer green flag run to be able to do something to get up there to Flaro and Spangler?
Yeah, I've tried to run the bottom there on the last 2 restarts on the first lap, and I'm kind of able to pull to his rear bumper, but I'm not really able to gain anything. And I think it's going to take trying to figure out how to come off 4 to try to get around Flaro. And, haven't even began to try to work out the problem of trying to get around Spangler yet. I'm just really just focused on Flaro here.
So Nick will restart in third. The big gainer with these cautions is going to be Brandon Dittmer. He's up 11 spots to 6th from his 17th starting spot. As the Steve King Foundation pace truck pulls on off, we'll go back to green. It's Spangler and Flaro up front. Green flag waves. Spangler moves down to the inside through 1 and 2 for the first time. Flaro still has Vickery and Chapman behind him. The front 4 are spread out. Really, the front 2 have started to pull away. Then you've got a group of Nicholas Vickery and Blake Chapman, and then behind him a gaggle of cars that starts with Jeffrey Kemper and Brandon Dittmer. Dittmer, now our Chipbanger Racing hard charger here early, up 12 spots as he moves up into the top 5. You've got Flaro running that middle line, Chapman to the inside, Vickery to the outside as they continue to battle for that second position. That's allowed Spangler to separate from this group, and the caution flag will wave. It looks like it's for Andrew Embach. Looks like Gary Taylor got out of shape and come down the track nowhere for Mbach to go as he was clipped when he passed on by. So Spangler continues to lead, Jeff Laro second. We're down to 22 laps to go when we go back to green here at Lucas Oil. So Spangler leads us back to green here at Lucas Oil Speedway. 22 laps to go. Good start for Spangler. He separates by 4/10 over Flaro. Flaro has a space between him and the third place car of Vickery, as Vickery has Chapman all over the back of him down the backstretch. Dittmer behind him now as Chapman tries to use that inside line, and it looks like Jeffrey Barker will bring out our latest caution. Single cow passes in front of him, and then he gets into Bixler in the middle of turns 1 and 2. So we'll be down to 21 laps to go when we go back to green. With these cautions coming hot and heavy here early in this one, Nick, what does that do to your momentum and mindset as you try to get going to get something to attack on those top two?
Yeah, I think all these cautions, they're really, really blowing off the track. I like running the top, and I feel like these cautions here are just really eating away at the top. As we ride around under caution around the top, it's just really pushing that line further and further up. And I think before too long, Blake Chapman's going to figure out the bottom and start making his way forward.
So Blake Chapman currently running in 4th. He's behind Nicholas. That 83 machine of Brandon Dittmer, he's up 14 spots now as he runs into the top 5. So Patrick Spangler will make his way through turn number 4. Green flag waves. We're back to green flag racing. Spangler dives down to the inside as he has all night. Great battle for second now as Vickery's pounced all over Flaro. Chapman to his inside, and Dittmer behind him. A great 5-car battle here for that second position, as Chapman's able to make a move to the inside. Flaro and Vickery to the outside, and Brandon Dittmer will follow Chapman through as he will move on up into that 3rd position now. Brandon Dittmer up 14 spots into the top 3 here with the 360 sprints. 19 laps to go, and now he and Chapman try to track down the leader of Patrick Spangler. Vickery also able to get by Flaro, so Vickery will bounce back into the 4th position. That lead now 3/10. Chapman behind Spangler. 2 cars that finished on the podium for the 305s battle for the win here in the 360s. Brandon Dittmer was running up front in the 305s before some troubles knocked him back into the field. And then the other 3rd car of Vickery currently run 4th. As we'll check out our latest caution, looks like it's going to be Gary Singlecow having some issues. You see some damage to his wing already. Just slides up into that wall. Obviously an ill-handling car for Gary at this point of the race. Tell you what, Nick, some cars pounced real quick there as you made a move on Flaro, and that opened the door for Chapman and Dittmer to the inside.
Yeah, I had to check up quite a bit there in 1 and 2, and coming out of the corner, I lost 2 spots. I didn't really have anywhere to go. I tried to pull the middle, and it just wasn't anything there.
So the racing continues. We're down to 15 laps to go. Patrick Spangler continues to lead. He's now going to restart with Chapman and Dittmer hot on his tail. Nicholas Vickery back to 4th. As mentioned, Brandon Dittmer, great run for him tonight, up 14 spots, now on a podium position. As we've had 6 cautions, we'll have our 6th Mission 22 restart this next time out, as they're going to have to put some gas in that Stephen King Foundation pace truck. Spangler will lead them through 3 and 4. Green flag waves, 15 laps to go for Spangler. Chapman behind him, Dittmer all over the back of Chapman, trying to move into that 2nd position. Dittmer now slides up to the top in front of Vickery as Chapman continues to use that inside line through 3 and 4. Front 3 nose to tail through 1 and 2, and then Dittmer will break out in 3 and 4 out to that outside line. Vickery using that outside line as well. Lucky number 13 laps to go here for Spangler, as he's got Chapman right behind him as the 7th caution of the night waves. Looks like it's going to be Gary Single Cow again. We'll see what brings this caution out. Ooh, and it was Bud Molyneux in front of him. Nowhere for Gary to go. You can see he tried to make a move, but no opportunity to avoid Bud there going into turn number 3.
And a little bit of a report here from the 4th starting spot. If you can get a good angle of Patrick Spangler's left front, he's cambered in pretty bad. I think he may have made some contact with an inside tire somewhere.
So we will take a look at Patrick's car as he makes his way around. So Nick, you'll restart 4th here. What's it going to take to get up to those top 3 and try to make a move for the win?
I don't know. I think it's going to take some really good laps on the top to make it work. You know, there's still quite a bit of speed coming off turn 2. But I think in 3 and 4, I'm struggling a lot to try to find where to exit the corner at.
You can see that 39 left front tire. See if that does cause any issues for Patrick. So 7 cautions. That means we are about to have our 7th Mission 22 restart. Spangler leads him back to green. Chapman right behind him. Dittmer behind Chapman. 12 laps to go now here. Dittmer will jump to the outside through 1 and 2. As Chapman continues to follow Spangler on that inside line. Same thing on the other end of the track. Vickery drives in hard in 3 and 4, trying to make some ground up on Dittmer in the front 2, as it's now 11 laps to go here at Lucas Oil Speedway. Spangler able to separate from Chapman. He's about 4/10 ahead of him now, as Dittmer makes a dive move on that outside line. He will gain some ground on Chapman, as Chapman continues to chip away at Spangler's lead. 9 laps to go this time by. Spangler's lead got down to 2/10 coming out of turn number 4. Chapman really putting the pressure on that 39 machine, as we've got single-digit laps to go here in this 360 feature. Dittmer continues to use that high line all the way up in 3 and 4, as he picks up some ground as the front 2 now battle for the lead. It's Chapman to the inside of Spangler down the backstretch. Got Gary Single Cow up ahead of the leaders as Spangler tries to hold off Chapman. Spangler and Chapman will move to the inside of Single Cow, as Dittmer will try to move around as well. He clears him going into 3 and 4. Single Cow gets out of the way as they continue to battle for the lead. Patrick Spangler running that middle line. Chapman all the way down by the tires as he tries to make something happen for the lead, while also holding off Dittmer in 3rd. Bud Molyneux to the inside. The leaders will move around him. That'll be an opening for Spangler to separate as he comes to 4 laps to go. Dittmer continues to use that outside line. He'll make up some ground on Chapman. He'll try to make a move on Chapman for second as they head down the backstretch. Spangler continues to lead. Shreves gets out of the way to the high side there. Dittmer has to jump down below to Chapman's rear as the caution will come out again. It looks like it's going to be Randy Shreves, who the leaders had just made their way by. You can see Randy had some damage to his wing already. The 302 of Rayner gets into the back of him. That's what had slowed him down as the leaders came on. So we have less than 3 laps to go when we go back to green. It's Patrick Spangler, Blake Chapman, Brandon Dittmer, and Nicholas Vickery. Nicholas, you'll restart in that 4th position again here with our latest Mission 22 restart. Anything here late that you found that might be able to work into that podium finish?
Yeah, I feel like I started to figure out turns 3 and 4 there, and I don't know. We've got a 2-lap shootout, so we'll have to see if maybe we can make this really exciting here at the end.
So Nick Vickery will restart 4th. Still Patrick Spangler out front, Blake Chapman 2nd, Brandon Dittmer 3rd. It'll be a green-white checkered here for this latest Mission 22 restart. The Stephen King Foundation pace truck will pull on off, and we will go back to green here at Lucas Oil Speedway for the 8th restart of the night. Spangler leads them through 3 and 4. Green flag will wave coming out of turn number 4. Good start by Spangler there. He's able to stretch his lead over half a second here early on Chapman. Chapman has Dittmer to his outside. Behind them, Vickery and Kemper trying to move up into a podium spot. Chapman continuing to use that inside line. White flag waves for Patrick Spangler. Dittmer still trying to use that outside line down the backstretch for the final time. The 39 of Patrick Spangler moves through turns 3 and 4. Coming to the checkered, it's going to be Patrick Spangler, your 360 Sprint feature winner. Blake Chapman 2nd, Brandon Dittmer 3rd, and Nicholas Vickery in 4th. So the checkered flag waves on our 360 sprints. Your Chipbanger Racing Hard Charger is going to be the 83 of Brandon Dittmer from 17th to 3rd. Great run for him. And as we look to interview our top 3 finishers, Nick, we will wait for Dittmer, Chapman, and Spangler to join us up here in the booth. And Nicholas, why don't you get us started with our 3rd place finisher, the 83 of Brandon Dittmer?
Man, Dittmer, what a race, coming from 17th to 3rd. What did you think about the track state and kind of how it wore in for the night?
I love the track state. I was able to run the top, hold my own, even pass some people. I just really wish I had a little bit more cushion there at the end. Maybe could have got around those 2, but it was pretty good overall.
Yeah, we were talking about how the cautions may be blowing off the top side of the track with everybody really riding around. Did you consider going to the bottom to try to get underneath any of those guys in front of you?
I did think about it, and I was talking with Patrick on most of those under cautions, but Blake was just so locked up there. He entered so early, I just couldn't get below him, so I just tried to do something up top.
Well, definitely a really, really good run tonight after some unfortunate events in the heat race. You brought home, or you started 17th here and brought home 3rd. You got anybody you want to thank for that hard charger?
Yeah, Training Wheels Racing, Patrick Spangler and Tyler Wilson for bringing me on. They've been a great help to me. Russ Carena, Velocity Race Designs, did a great job on the wrap. Always does a great job. You guys with the broadcast. I always love going back watching these things. Definitely go back watch that one. Coast to Coast Racing League for the league in general. I love this league. Nowhere else I'd rather be. I think that's all I got for you guys.
All right, well, that is your third place finisher here in the 360s for Coast to Coast, Brandon Dittmer.
Now joining us, our second place finisher, Blake Chapman. Blake, you just couldn't get up to the Spangler machine to make a pass for the lead. What was the difference here in the 360s that prevented you to get up into the lead?
That middle came into play there at the end, Travis. I thought I had this thing won. When I got underneath Patrick, I felt like I was doing a pretty good job of keeping the car down low and keeping the speed up. But credit to him, he found something in the middle there and he made it work. And I thought the bottom was still going to be faster, but I couldn't keep up with him. And really surprised to see that middle come into play. But credit to him for finding that and beating me with it.
When you have a battle like that, you're trying to chase down the leader up ahead of you, and then you have Dittmer to your outside trying to make some moves on you. What does that do as you're trying to chase down the leader, but you're also trying to hold position?
Yeah, I knew Brandon was running up top, but it was just hitting my marks, controlling what I could, and lap traffic even came into play there towards the end. That got a little bit scary. I haven't seen that yet this year in this division. But I think the lap cars did a pretty good job of holding their own, at least in front of me. So, yeah, I mean, I know Brandon was coming up there, but just trying to run down Patrick, and wasn't able to do it.
A lot of cautions tonight. The long green flag run we did have looked like your best opportunity to make a move for the lead. Were you hoping for some more green flag laps there to try to make a move and claim a victory in this division?
Well, he got a little bit of separation from me, Patrick did, with about 5 to go, and right then I was hoping for a caution. It just came a couple laps later, but yeah, I didn't really get cautions when I needed them, especially at the beginning, trying to pass guys on the bottom, and the cautions coming out every lap. That doesn't help, but we did have a nice run there with green flag laps, and hopefully it didn't look too bad on the broadcast, but wish there wasn't so many cautions tonight.
Well, it was another great run. You pick up another podium position. Who are the sponsors that you want to thank here for the 360 Sprint?
First, Galen's Gourmet Popcorn. Head over to their website. Use code CART, C-A-R-T, at checkout, 15% off some of their delicious popcorn. Got to thank all the boys down at Kreitzim Racing Team and the Can-Am Racing Team. Preston at Epsilon Sprint Wraps for making all my cars look good. My parents, grandparents, everybody watching and supporting. And you for putting this broadcast on.
Great run, Blake. We will look to talk to you again soon.
Thank you.
And now our winner here for the 360 Sprints with Nick, it's Patrick Spangler.
Patrick, you started on the pole and was able to hold off a hard-charging Blake Chapman and Brandon Dittmer. What did you think about the track and kind of how it wore in? Just kind of walk us through your race from beginning to end. What was going through your mind?
Main thing was just trying to stay out of those tractor tires because it seems like the last couple weeks I just keep crushing them. And Dimmer told me Blake hit one early, so I knew he had left front damage, and then I crushed one on lap 15. So we both had left front damage, and then he got under me, and I thought he was going to walk away because usually it's just bottom on around this track. But I was making the middle work where I would just enter middle and exit high down the straightaways. I was able to hold him off, and I was surprised, but good race though. Always fun racing with Blake.
I mentioned their late race. We were riding around under caution, and I mentioned to Travis that you might have some left front damage. And how did that really affect the car? From my perspective, it looked like it was towed in pretty bad. But how did the car drive after you made contact with that tire?
The suspension was still there. The way my steering wheel was at like a 3 o'clock, so it was off to the right a little bit. So as long as I got that down, it was fine after that. Just that lap or two after I hit it, just trying to get used to it again. But it wasn't bad. If I would have to keep her on the bottom, it may have been a struggle, but the middle was pretty easy.
Yeah, well, even from my perspective, I didn't see a whole lot of people running the middle. So definitely hats off for making the middle work right through the slick. You brought home the win. You got anybody you want to thank?
Just you guys for putting on the broadcast. Roger from the league. Trangles Racing getting the double podium there. And Dad and Uncle back home watching. And the wife for putting her movie on pause so I can do the interview.
All right, well, that is your winner of the 360s tonight here in the Coast to Coast, Patrick Spangler.
So Coolray Hometown Heroes will move on. That was our 360 sprints presented by Salty Dogs Racing Team. Next up, we've got our big block modifieds. They're presented by Magnum Race Design. As Coolray Hometown Heroes Night continues on, we're going to take a quick commercial break, and when we come back, we'll move on to the modifieds here on the Coast to Coast Racing Network.
This October, some of iRacing's best dirt racers come together for one of the biggest A-days ever. All dirt roads lead to Charlotte and the Dirt Track Bank World Finals, presented by the Dirt Alliance. Fixed 360s, Pro Late models, and small block modifieds collide for 7 action-packed nights in a pursuit of a guaranteed purse of $1,500. 3 champions and an overall world champion will be crowned. Register now for this great event. Go to c2crl.com for more information. The World Finals run from October 21st to the 27th. 100% of registration goes to Mission 22 in their fight to end veteran suicide. A joint effort between the Coast2Coast Racing League, Friday Night Lights, and Dirt Track Bank, a division of Malvern Bank. Don't miss it.
our industry.
The lifetime parts and labor warranty is pretty awesome. Basically, all the parts are covered, the labor and everything.
When we say lifetime, we mean lifetime, and it's supported with money-back guarantees. And with that, you're getting all qualified technicians that are going to ensure that this job is done perfectly and operates perfectly throughout the life of the unit.
Learn more about our Coolray lifetime parts and labor warranty at Coolray.com. Coolray and Carrier. Turn to the experts.
This November, dirt racing's most celebrated stars align in an electrifying spectacle. The World of Outlaws World Finals. All dirt roads lead to Charlotte as the World of Outlaws NOS Energy Drink Sprint Cars, World of Outlaws Case Late Models, and Super Dirt Car Series Big Blocks collide. 4 action-packed nights, 3 season champions. Get your tickets now. November 2nd through the 5th at the Dirt Track at Charlotte.
Welcome back to the Coast2Coast Racing League. It is Coolray Hometown Heroes, and we move on to the final division of the night here. It is the Big Block Modifieds. We have practice session going on right now, and Nicholas, you've shot to the top of the charts. Brandon Templeton second. Couple names that are expected to be up towards the top. What should we expect here with the Big Block Modifieds?
Yeah, I think this is going to be something completely different than we've seen all night. You know, the sprint cars really were bottom feeders, really, with the track state the way it was and with the weather conditions the way they were. You know, the bottom line was fast all night. But I think here in the big blocks of 358s, I think you're going to see guys starting to run the top.
We talk about it every Wednesday night here at Coolray Hometown Heroes. What does the momentum do with these Big Block Modifieds, and how important is it as you try to move up through the field?
Yeah, you know, really keeping these cars straight. These cars are really, really temperamental on the throttle. So if you get back on the throttle a little bit too hard, it may sound like you're going faster, but you're actually quite a bit slower. You know, you can kill 3, 4, 5 tenths of a second just by getting on the throttle a little bit too hard too early. So with these cars, you want to try to keep them as straight as possible and be really, really easy coming off the corner, and you'll be fast.
Similar to the sprint cars, how much attention goes into making sure you keep that nose and those 2 front tires clean and clear of other cars on the track?
Yeah, and it's pretty important, just like the sprint cars, because if you make contact with the left rear or right rear of the car in front of you, next thing you know, you'll be looking at the sky, because the nose of these cars just goes straight up whenever contact is made to the back of a car.
So our Big Block Modifieds practice session continues. We'll move on to ABR Setup Shop qualifying session next, heat races, and then our 30-lap feature here for the Magnum Race Design Big Block Modifieds. Looks like we have 15 cars here for the Big Block Modifieds currently. 12 have made some lap times, as we are all within about 4 tenths of each other, so very close times. And what does that translate to during the race, Nick, when the times are so quick? What really sets a car apart from being just another car out there on the track?
You know, I think a lot of it is the invert in the heat race, because if you qualify really, really fast, and, you know, let's say you qualify on the pole, you're going to start your heat race in the first heat in 4th. So that means when the track is as fresh as it's supposed to be, you're going to be in the 2nd row, and it's hard to pass because there's so much grip everywhere on the track. So I think really the name of the game is either qualify well for the invert or be able to make some passes in the heat race to try to start up front here in the feature.
So the practice session continues here. 15 cars currently entered into this big block modified division, as it is our final division of the night here for Coolray Hometown Heroes. Wednesday night racing action as always. Thank you for tuning in to the Coast to Coast Racing League Network. So as always, the Steve King Foundation pace truck pacing the field here tonight at Lucas Oil Speedway. The Steve King Foundation was formed to help the dirt track racing community across the country by providing financial assistance to drivers, pit crew members, racing officials, track operations personnel, or the immediate families of those who are suffering serious injuries, illnesses, or death. You can learn more about the Steve King Foundation on the Coast to Coast Racing League website. Of course, the Big Block Modifieds on Coolray Hometown Heroes Night, always presented by Magnum Race Design. Magnum Race Design offers iRacing wraps, hero cards, logos, flyers, and even t-shirt designs. If you're looking for a new design and you want attention to detail, competitive pricing, and fast turnaround times, check out Magnum Race Design on Facebook, where you can contact them directly through Messenger. Magnum Race Design is a proud sponsor of the Coast to Coast Racing League's 358 Modified Division. So watching now Brian Lawson out there. He is always someone to be reckoned with during Big Block Modified action. Joseph Grandy will leave the track. Bob DeGood, he had a great 360 qualifying lap here shortly ago. Of course, he's got that All About Tie-Dye number 7 out there, All About Tie-Dye. Mission 22 on his back deck lid there. Of course, last week's Dirt Track Bank World Finals benefited with all proceeds going to Mission 22. Great event last week. That was a lot of fun to be had. Of course, Mission 22 united in the war against veteran suicide. When their tour is over, our mission begins. Mission 22 is dedicated to healing America's veterans when they need it the most. Right now, we offer treatment for post-traumatic stress and traumatic brain injury and all of the issues veterans are facing today. Mission 22 is a registered 501 nonprofit organization dedicated to healing America's veterans when they need it the most. Mission 22 is not a crisis organization. If you or someone you know is in crisis and needs to speak with someone immediately, of course, call 1-800-273-8255. Mission 22, a great partner and recipient of our proceeds from the World Finals last week. And with that, it looks like we are going to move on to our ABR Setup Shop qualifying session here for the modified division. Brandon Dittmer, one of the guys we've seen all night, he's out on the track to make his time. As is Brandon Templeton, Jeffrey Barker, Chris Steele. Plenty of cars make their way towards the track here for their first timed lap. Brandon Templeton will be the first to complete a lap of 15:09, good enough for fastest here early. Bob DeGood second fast with a 15.16. Our in-race reporter Nicholas Vickery out there as well. Randy Shreves will jump up into that second position. Templeton, a good separation there until Kurt Schatzer jumps in with a 15.10. Our in-race reporter Nicholas Vickery, a 15.13. Brian Lawson, fourth fastest, a 15.14. Close times throughout. The top 10 separated by 1/10. Jeff Flaro completes his lap. Bud Molyneux completes his lap. 15.69. That is 14 cars down. There's 2 cars left. We'll see if they make a timed lap during this ABR Setup Shop qualifying session. Good lap for you there, Nick. Just shy of Templeton and Schatzer. And from the looks of it, it looks like you could start in that second row of heat race number 3.
Yeah, I started doing the math, and I think there is going to be 3 heats. I was really hoping that maybe Dittmer or Spangler come up here and shocked us and moved me down another spot. Hopefully I could transition back into heat race number 1. But, good laps to Templeton and to Schatzer. Those guys are fast in the full body car, so not very surprised that they're at the top of the leaderboard.
So it's going to be Brandon Templeton, it looks like, in our ABR Setup Shop qualifying session. Quick time. Kurt Schatzer second, Nicholas Vickery third, Brian Lawson fourth, and Jeff Sharp rounding out your top 5. As Coolray Hometown Heroes continues to march on here, our final division of the night, it is the Modifieds from Lucas Oil Speedway. And ABR Setup Shop qualifying will come to an end. It's going to be Brandon Templeton, your quick time. And as we get ready to go, we were wrong, Nick. It looks like we are going to have 2 heats. Our in-race reporter Nicholas Vickery will start in row number 2, that third position next to our quick time Brandon Templeton. And with that, we will look at our starting lineup here in Langton Mechanical Heat Race number 1. Front row is going to be Bob DeGood next to Jeff Sharp. Row number 2, our in-race reporter Nicholas Vickery next to Brandon Templeton. Row number 3, Jeffrey Kemper next to Jeffrey Barker. And running out the field is going to be Gary Singlecow and Patrick Spangler in that final row as we get to racing action here with the Modifieds. It's heat race number 1. 6 laps. So with only 2 heat races here, Nicholas, looking to get a good starting spot on that inside row of the feature. And you've got the quick time starting to your outside.
Yeah, I think the bottom's going to be fast here early. I was really, really excited when the heat races rolled over and there was only 2, because I definitely didn't want to be in the third heat race.
So we will get lined up here. This will help set the field for our feature event. 30 laps here to follow our 2 heat races. It's going to be Bob DeGood, Jeff Sharp. 6 laps make up our heat race number 1 presented by Langton Mechanical. Bob DeGood, Jeff Sharp out of turn number 4. Green flag waves. Front 4 stay 2 by 2 going into number 1. Vickery looks to the inside of Bob DeGood through 1 and 2. He'll lose momentum coming out of 2. As Templeton moves to the outside of Bob DeGood, Jeff Sharp's able to take over the lead through 3 and 4 and use that outside momentum. As Bob DeGood now settles into that third spot, Templeton will look to the inside of Jeff Sharp. That's for the lead. As Vickery and DeGood make contact, DeGood will fall on back. Vickery will hold on to that third spot as they're side by side in front of him for the lead. Templeton continues to use that inside line. He's to the inside of Sharp. Sharp's able to use momentum coming out of 2 down the backstretch. Lead going into turn number 3 as now Vickery enters the picture as well. He's down on that inside behind Templeton. 3 laps to go here in heat race number 1. Side by side down the backstretch for the lead. Vickery still watches on from the third position. He'll peek to the middle. Coming out of turn number 4, 2 laps to go. Jeff Sharp continues to hold off Templeton as he's got Vickery now behind him. It's going to be Templeton down the backstretch, but that outside momentum will pull Sharp even as they go into 3. White flag waves here in heat race number 1. They stay side by side for the lead. It's Vickery in third. Templeton pulls away slightly down the backstretch as Sharp fights back. Vickery will look to the inside again as it's going to be Sharp and Templeton side by side. It's going to be Templeton at the line and the heat race number 1 win. Jeff Sharp second, Vickery third, Jeffrey Kemper fourth. So we will move on to our heat race number 2 presented by Magnum Race Design. Nick, we'll let you go through our starting lineup before talking about heat race number 1.
Yep, so bringing the field to green in the second heat race will be Jeff Flero and Randy Shreves on the front row. Second row will be Brian Lawson and Kurt Schatzer. Third row will be Joseph Grandy and Chris Steele. Fourth row will be Bud Molyneux and Brandon Dittmer. Oh, my numbers got off.
And you're good. That's the 8-car field. So you got up to third there in heat race number 1. They were side by side for the lead. You peeked to the middle a couple times, but really no lane for you to go into.
Yeah, I felt like I was pretty quick there, but I just couldn't make anything happen with guys side by side in front of me.
So with that, Nick should start in row number 3 of our feature event. Heat race number 2 here by Magnum Race Design will set the outside row of the feature. So Jeff Flero, Randy Shreves, that front row. Got Schatzer and Lawson behind them. Got Dittmer and Grandy out back in the final couple rows. Be interested to see if they're able to move up through the field. But as they come through 3 and 4, we'll go to green. It's Flero and Shreves. Green flag waves. Good start by Flero. He's able to break away in front of Shreves, slide on up. That opens the door for Lawson to the inside.
Yeah, they're really still 2x2 going into 3 here. I think the top was really, really fast as well. Flero jumped the cushion there a little bit coming off 4 and lost 3 spots.
That opened the door for the top 3. Now Grandy and Dittmer pounce on Flero. It's Lawson out front, able to break away as Randy Shreves and Schatzer battle side by side through 3 and 4 for the number 2 position.
Yeah, Schatzer's making a lot of ground up there on the bottom, and Brian Lawson is just hoping that these guys keep battling really hard and let him just ride off into the sunset.
Schatzer's able to clear Shreves down the backstretch. He now sets his sights on Lawson out front. Lawson is up by about 3/10 in front of Schatzer as they make their way through 1 and 2 for another lap.
Oh, there was a really good battle for the last transfer spot, and they just made contact on the backstretch.
Dittmer goes to the back. Flero gets caught up. So does Grandy. That'll separate Bud Molyneux for that 4th spot. Out front, it's Lawson coming to the white flag.
Yeah, it looks like they've all got about a car length between each other, maybe 2 cars going into 1 on the last lap here. Brian Lawson's still running the bottom going onto the backstretch.
So Lawson has a half a second lead over Schatzer as they come through 3 and 4 for the final time. Schatzer will make an attempt. He won't get close. It's going to be Lawson, your heat race number 2 winner. Kurt Schatzer second, Randy Shreves third, and Bud Molyneux in 4th. So after racing in heat race number 1 and then watching heat race number 2, anything you can take into the feature event, Nick?
Yeah, the track's really wearing in kind of like I expected it. There's 2 really, really good lanes to race on, and I think we'll see a lot of side-by-side racing here early in the feature.
So before we move on to our final feature of the night, we have our final Flatline Racing Bodies intermission of tonight's Wednesday night Coolray Hometown Heroes. As they make their way around, get some laps in here before tonight's modified feature event. So 10 cars have made laps here during our Flatline Racing Bodies intermission. As we watch our in-race reporter Nicholas Vickery have some issues there going into turn number 1. Randy Shreves also out on the track. Chris Steele in the 80 machine. Gary Singlecow also out there currently. Nick Vickery with the fastest time during this session by about 600ths over Brian Lawson and Brandon Templeton. As we have about 30 seconds remaining, 11 cars have made laps, 5 have not. As it looks like 2 more may be entering the track here late, Joseph Grandy and Jeff Sharp, as Joseph Grandy will jump to the top of the charts. Great lap for him to get started. He'll pull on in. He'll be a one and done. Set the time and then move on through. And our Flatline Racing Bodies intermission will come to a close. We will move on to our Magnum Race Design Modified feature event here from Lucas Oil Speedway. And as they get lined up on the track, that will bring us to our Super Dirt Car Series starting lineup. It's going to look like this for our modifieds. Brandon Templeton, Brian Lawson, row number 1. Row number 2, Jeff Sharp next to Kurt Schatzer. Our in-race reporter will start 5th. Nicholas Vickery next to Randy Shreves. Jeffrey Kemper 7th. Bud Molyneux in 8th. Rounding out the top 10 is going to be Gary Singlecow next to Joseph Grandy. 11th, it's going to be Bob DeGood next to Chris Steele. 13th, Jeffrey Barker, Brandon Dittmer. And rounding out the field, the final row, Patrick Spangler and Jeff Flaro. So, Nick, you will start inside row number 3. What's it going to take to move on up past some of these guys and battle for the lead?
I don't know. In previous races here for Hometown Heroes, it's a little difficult to pass once it goes to one lane. So I think it's going to take the track staying moist and not really drying out too fast for there to be 2 lines to get some passing done.
Well, we will watch Nick throughout this feature event, check in with him periodically as they get ready to go green. It's Brandon Templeton, Brian Lawson out front. Steve King Foundation pace truck pulled on off. Our feature event for the Magnum Race Design Modifieds is underway. Brandon Templeton, Lawson to his outside through 1 and 2. Jeff Sharp follows Templeton through that inside line. And before we exit turn number 2, we will have our first caution of the night. This one looks like it included our in-race reporter and Nicholas Vickery. We'll see what happened here on our replay. It looks like Kemper just gets into the back of the 00 machine. Around he goes, and caution number 1 comes out. So our first caution waves. That means we'll have our first Mission 22 restart of the modified feature. Brandon Templeton will lead. Brian Lawson second. Jeff Sharp and Kurt Schatzer, the top 4, all holding positions. Brandon Dittmer, our big gainer in the 360s, is already one of our top hard chargers of the night here in the modifieds. He's up 4 spots to 10th here quickly in this feature event. Steve King Foundation pace truck pulls on off. It's Brandon Dittmer leading us back to green. Through 3 and 4 to the orange cone. Templeton will lead us back to green. It waves. Single file restart here for the modifieds underway. Templeton using that inside line through 1 and 2. You've got Jeff Sharp middle line trying to make a move on Schatzer. They'll make contact coming out of 2. They'll hold position as Randy Shreves on that outside now tries to move up. As Bud Molyneux will go around in turn number 4. He made contact with Kemper. We'll take a look at this replay as we watch Kemper and Molyneux make contact in front of Grandy. Single cow avoids it, as does Nicholas Vickery. And here quickly we have our second caution of the modified feature. So Nicholas, you started on the inside of row number 3. You were part of that first caution. You quickly have moved back into the top 10. What's the strategy as you have 25 laps to go here?
Yeah, really the name of the game now is just to go where cars aren't. You know, I know that my car's fast. It's just a matter of working my way back through the field.
So we will check in with Nick throughout the night. He's making his way back up to the front. Currently running in the 8th position. As we let scoring and the officials and once they get it all sorted out, Nick will actually restart 11th here. He was able to move up a couple spots during that green flag run. We'll go back to our Mission 22 restart for the second time. Templeton gets the green flag here at Lucas Oil Speedway, back to green. Templeton pulls away slightly from Lawson. It's still Sharp and Schatzer battling for that 3rd position. Single file back through Bud Molyneux. You have to go back to Single Cow and Dittmer. As Grandy will go around, will stay green. He'll fall back as now it's Dittmer trying to hold off Nicholas Vickery. Vickery will benefit from that contact between Single Cow and Grandy as he now moves up into the 8th position. Out front, it's still Brandon Templeton leading Brian Lawson. Sharp is now taking control of that 3rd position as Schatzer and Shreves battle. And our 3rd caution of the night comes out. We'll take a look and see what may have happened. Ooh, and Dittmer gets into that wall coming out of turn number 2, right in front of some of the other cars, including Gary Single Cow there. So 24 laps to go now. Watching everything cycle through. Our in-race reporter Nicholas Vickery now up to the 7th position. Brandon Templeton leads. Brian Lawson, Sharp, Schatzer, and Shreves. That top 5 continues to remain the same. Our Chip Banger Racing Hard Chargers, currently Jeffrey Barker. He's up 5 spots to the 8th position. Out front, it's Templeton out front. Another Mission 22 restart. Green flag waves for Templeton. He separates again from Lawson. You have to go back to Sharp, who Schatzer and Shreves pounce on quickly through 1 and 2. Sharp's able to hold them off now. He makes a move to the inside of Lawson. Caution flag waves for the 4th time. This time looks like it's going to be Bud Molyneux. That outside line coming out of 2. Gets into that wall down the backstretch. Checking in with our in-race reporter, Nicholas, you're up to 6 now. These caution flags, you're chipping away at getting back into that top 5. How do you feel about your car here as we try to get a long green flag run to give you a chance to move on up?
Yeah, it feels really good to be, about where I started. So, yeah, I mean, really, I'll pass a car, get a caution, pass a car, get a caution. I'll take them however I can get them.
That's the 00 Nick Vickery, 24 laps to go. He started in 5th. First caution of the night took him back to about 15th on that first restart, and he is back up into the 6th position now as we run. So Templeton, Lawson, Sharp, still your top 3. We've had 4 cautions here. Our 4th Mission 22 restart. Templeton leads us to green. He's able to separate from Lawson as he has all night. Now Sharp still has Shreves, Vickery, and Schatzer all over the back of him as those 3 continue to battle for the 4th position. Schatzer slides up in front of Shreves. You got Vickery down to the inside, trying to make something happen on the inside of that 56 machine. Vickery will hold that spot through 1 and 2. Behind them, you've got Jeffrey Barker trying to move up as well. He's currently our Chip Banger Racing hard charger, up 6 spots. They complete the lap before our 5th caution of the night comes out. As we'll watch, it appeared Jeffrey Kemper had some issues. We'll bring that up one more time, see what happened to that 181 machine. See, he's battling with Dittmer and Steele there. Ooh, and Steele got into the back of the good, checked up right in front of Jeffrey. Nowhere for him to go. And that brings out our 5th caution of the night. So 20 laps to go when we go back to green. Templeton, Lawson, Sharp. Nicholas Vickery still in that 6th position. Green flag waves for Templeton. We're back to green here at Lucas Oil Speedway. 21 laps to go. Sharp, Schatzer, Shreves continue to battle for that 4th position. Vickery to the inside of Shreves. Schatzer all over the back of Sharp. Vickery, Shreves make contact going into turn number 3. They're both able to save it there. Vickery still on the inside. Schatzer still trying to chase down Sharp. That's a battle for 3rd. As Lawson and Sharp continue to run that outside line, as Vickery will complete the pass on Shreves going into turn number 3. He'll now move into the 5th position. Out front, it's still Brandon Templeton using that inside line. 18 laps to go. Behind him, you got Brian Lawson in the 9. And then it's Sharp, Schatzer rounding out your top 4. Nicholas Vickery is back where he started in the 5th position, back into the top 5. Bob DeGood was looking to make a move on Jeffrey Barker, who runs 7th. It's going to be 15 laps to go this time by for the 31 machine of Templeton, as they're spread out single file around that top outside line in 3 and 4. Templeton will jump to the inside through 1 and 2. Nicholas Vickery continues to try to chase down Schatzer, trying to move up into that 4th spot. He's got Shreves behind him now, trying to eventually move into a podium spot. Sharp had a great run on Larson there through 1 and 2. He had to check up, which opens up that gap between 2nd and 3rd. 13 laps to go this time by at Lucas Oil Speedway. Nicholas Vickery continues to try to work on Schatzer. That's a battle for 4th. Templeton has separated from the group. He's got a 2-second lead over Lawson. It's then another second from Lawson back to Sharp. There's that battle with Lawson and Sharp. Templeton continues to lead out front. 10 laps to go now. Our longest green flag run of the night here for the modifieds. As Templeton continues to set the pace, he's got a 1.2 second lead over Lawson. Lawson, Sharp, Schatzer, and Vickery round out your top 5. They all run nose to tail up around that outside line. Templeton's also moved up there now as the race has progressed. 8 laps to go this time by. The second group of cars trying to make a run at the leader, unable to do so. Vickery will jump to the inside now with 7 laps to go, trying to make something to happen on Schatzer, as he's got space between he and Shreves, who currently runs 6th. Vickery now the only car down there on that inside line, trying to find something. Templeton's now almost got a 2-second lead over Lawson and the rest of the field. He's coming to 5 laps to go this time by at Lucas Oil Speedway. 5 laps to go in our Magnum Race Design modified feature event here at Coolray Hometown Heroes. With now less than 4 laps to go, Templeton leads Lawson by 2 seconds. Lawson continues to lead Sharp, Schatzer, and Vickery. Jeffrey Barker in the 7th spot is up 6 spots. He's our Chip Banger Racing hard charger currently, as they're coming to 2 laps to go this time by for Brandon Templeton. All the way up to the top through 1 and 2 down the back stretch. He'll make his way through 3 and 4. White flag will wave this time by. It's Brandon Templeton out front, continues to lead that dirt track bank 31. He'll make his way down the backstretch for the final time through 3 and 4. Almost a 2.5 second lead. It's the 31 of Brandon Templeton, your modified feature winner. Lawson, Sharp, Schatzer, and Vickery will round out your top 5. So Brandon Templeton, Brian Lawson, Jeff Sharp will join us here shortly in the booth, your top 3 podium finishers for the Magnum Race Design modified feature here on Coolray Hometown Heroes. As we wait for the top 3 to join us. Nick, you made your way back up to 5th, and that's kind of where it stalled out there. You were trying to find something to get past Schatzer, just nothing came in for you.
Yeah, it was a pretty rough race. Car didn't feel right, but I'm not going to make excuses. Brought home fifth. It was a good night.
So Nicholas, our in-race reporter, will end up fifth here in the modified division as we wait for Sharp, Lawson, and Templeton to join us here in the booth. Those are your top three podium finishers as they join us from Coolray Victory Lane. And Nicholas, it looks like you have our third place finisher, the 28 of Jeff Sharp.
Jeff Sharp, it looks like you started third and finished third. Kind of walk us through your race. How did you feel like the track wore in tonight?
Pretty much just the top groove is all I tried. I was afraid if I went down low, there wouldn't be anything there, and I'd just get freight trained.
So you're saying you did think about running the bottom?
Well, that's the only way around the guy in front of me. I wanted to pass him, and I didn't want to move him. So
yeah. Sometimes it's a little difficult to pass here. So, like I said, you brought home third. It's a little difficult to pass, like we talked about. But is there anything else that you think you might could have done to get around Lawson there in the closing stages of the race?
I just could have got more aggressive. I was pretty happy with the third place run, the way things have been going lately.
Well, definitely brought home a good finish tonight. Third on the podium. You got anybody you want to thank for that finish?
Just everybody running the league and the broadcast crew. Thank you.
That is your third place finisher, Jeff Sharp.
Now joining us, our second place finisher, the 9 of Brian Lawson. Brian, you settled into that second spot right where you started behind Templeton. Had some cautions that closed up the gap, but was there anything you were going to be able to do to chase down that 31?
I was giving it all I had, man. The middle of the race, around lap 15, give or take, I had found a line where I was kind of coming down low off the corner, really letting off in the middle and trying to shoot down off the corner. And I was ever so slightly catching them. And then it was, I don't know, maybe 10 to go or something. And that line just kind of went away for me. And, I could see him. I was getting smaller and smaller in his mirror, and he was just pulling away from me.
What is it like when you're trying to chase down the leader there? He's maybe stretching out that lead, but then you've got Sharp right behind you in your tracks, and you're trying to fend him off as well.
Yeah, exactly. And I thought about going down low. The low line was really working for me in that heat race, big time. And I thought about going down low, but Brandon had been running that low line in I don't know if it was 1 and 2 or 3 and 4. And he had started moving back up, so I thought, well, maybe the low line's kind of gone away, and I knew Jeff was right behind me, so I didn't want him to get to my outside. So, unless I was really there to mount a challenge, that's probably when I would have went down to the low line and or threw a slider or something. But other than that, I was just trying to hang on and give it all I got.
Well, you were able to hang on for a good second place finish tonight. Any sponsors you want to give a shout out to tonight?
Absolutely. Got to thank you guys and Coast to Coast for doing all you guys do. Magnum Race Design. Anybody wants to wrap, hit us up on Facebook. Super Duke Dirt Car Series, Gears Unlimited, and last but certainly not least, my guys at Venom Racing. Appreciate all you guys.
Well, great finish tonight, Brian. We look forward to talking to you again soon.
All right. Thanks, Travis. Have a good night.
That is Brian Lawson, your second place finisher. And now joining us from Victory Lane, Nicholas, you've got our winner, Brandon Templeton.
So, Brandon, you led flag to flag tonight, had a good run in the heat race, and then was able to bring home the win here in the feature. Kind of walk us through your race. Early there, we had a couple cautions kind of bunched the field back up, and then there at the end, you were able to pull away and put quite a sizable gap on the field. Kind of walk us through your night.
Well, those first couple cautions helped out, get it single file and let me kind of get a jump on Brian. And he stayed right with me most of the race there until that real late green run. And, it's just tough enough to pass there that if you're hitting the right lines, you don't make the wrong choice on the line as it changes through the race, you're going to be real tough to pass. But I did hear stickers flying through the wind back there behind me. I could hear the air flying off of them, and I knew you were coming, but it ran out of time.
So I think I did see you trying to run the low line there about middle race. Kind of what was going through your mind when you made that line change, and then what made you go back to the top?
Well, I was really enjoying the bottom on 1 and 2 until, at least midway through. I tried it maybe once on the bottom there later in the race on that green flag run just to see if it had anything, and it wasn't bad on my timer, but it didn't feel as good. So I just went back to the top and kind of waited to see if Brian was going to start catching me, and just hung on.
Well, what you did definitely worked. You finished the feature here with a 2.4 second lead. So definitely hats off to you for the win. You got anybody you want to thank?
First off, got to thank the Dirt Track Bank, everything Jay's done to support us and the team. Got Your Six Racing Network, Hammer Down Racing Team, Joe, Kurt, and Brian, VMR Wraps, yourself there, Extreme Images, Maley's Makery, Big C's Lawn Care, Extreme E-Speed TV, and Travis for doing the broadcasts, and Roger for putting on the league, and everyone helping, and everyone watching at home. Thanks.
So that is your winner in the final event tonight for Coast to Coast Hometown Heroes, Brandon Templeton.
So Brandon Templeton will close out the night with a modified feature win here for Coolray Hometown Heroes. 3 divisions up, 3 divisions down. Another exciting night of coast-to-coast racing action here at Lucas Oil Speedway. Nicholas, I want to thank you for joining me up in the booth tonight. As always, it was a pleasure having you up here with me. Anything you want to say here tonight as we close out from Lucas Oil Speedway?
Yeah, the racing here all season's been really, really good, and I really look forward to the rest of the season here, and we start closing in on a couple points battles that are starting to brew.
So from Lucas Oil Speedway from Coolray Hometown Heroes, as mentioned, Nicholas Vickery, thanks to him for being our in-race reporter tonight. We will be back to racing action here on the Coast to Coast Racing Network tomorrow night. Be sure to tune in. We will see you next week for Coolray Hometown Heroes. As always, we will see you at a racetrack soon, race fans.
This copyrighted broadcast of Extreme E-Speed TV Network is intended solely for the entertainment of our audience. Any retransmitted, reproduced, rebroadcast, or otherwise distributed or used in any form without express written consent of the Extreme E-Speed TV Network is strictly prohibited. We hope you've enjoyed this broadcast.